Hey guys, it's Lotus and welcome back to another video. Today we are gonna check out some more stories from the No Sleep subreddit. It's been a while since we read some scary stories and I'm interested to see what kind of stuff we can find on here. So I pulled out 3 titles that seemed pretty interesting and spooky and I'm gonna read it with you guys. Okay, so the first one is I listened to a true crime podcast about myself. Oh dear. Okay. Let's read it. Every night on my walk home from work, I listen to true crime podcasts. Even though my favorite podcasts already released their episode for this week, the app said there was a new one. Excited, I hit play. By the way, I also enjoy I don't listen to podcasts, but I like to watch true crime videos on YouTube, so I can kind of relate. It was a small town, the kind that still has mom and pop shops lining the street, the kind where everyone knows your name, but little did the residents know that they would soon be rocked by a horrible crime. I stopped at a traffic light. The red glowed in the darkness, glinting off the wet street. A black SUV sloshed by. Across from me, eerie blue refrigerator lights glowed from inside a corner deli, the chairs all up on their tables, feet in the air. The sign turned to walk. That chilly September evening was no different for the young student. She'd left her shift at the local store and walked back home, except she never made it home. Young student, local store. Damn, this was hitting close to home. I was a part-time student at Franklin Community College and worked at the local convenience store. And, of course, I was walking home. I glanced behind me, looking at the alleyway behind Alessandro's Pizza, which was dark except for the neon light spilling from the sign. Her boyfriend reported her missing the next day. The town conducted a volunteer-led search, and after 2 days, they found something. Dread formed in my stomach, anticipating a body, but what he said next was so much worse. Washed up on the shore of Worthington Lake, they found a pair of size 9 red Converse sneakers. I stopped and looked down at my red Converse sneakers, damp from the rain. What the hell? My heart began to pound. The shoes were sent to a forensic analyst who would compare its wear pattern to another pair of her shoes to try and determine if they belonged to the victim. A rumbling sound made me jump. I turned to see a dark SUV turning left at the intersection. Didn't I see that car a few minutes ago? Maybe it's following me and... The car passed me and disappeared into the darkness. Come on, Sarah, get a grip. Converse are popular sneakers, a little out of fashion, but still. That's not true. A lot of people still wear Converse. 9 is a common woman's shoe size. And what college student doesn't have some sort of job? What, you think you're listening to some sort of prophecy of your own death? Yeah, right. After a few weeks, the results came back. The analyst was certain. The shoes belonged to none other than Sarah Campbell. The blood drained from my face. Sarah Campbell. My name? What the F? How? I didn't have time to think. I forced myself to move. I broke into a run. The small shops turned into a colorful blur. Searching the lake came up empty. Without a body, a crime is hard to solve. But police didn't give up. And finally, a witness came forward. Someone had seen a car parked at the lake that night around 2 a.m. A black SUV with darkened windows. No! What the hell is going on? I whipped around. The street was empty. No people, no cars, no witnesses, said the small voice in the back of my mind, the one that watched way too many true crime shows. My eyes scanned the shops, all closed. There were 6 black SUVs matching the witness's description in the Franklin area, but one of them in particular caught Detective Nolan's eye. It belonged to John Kelly, a registered sex offender. Vroom! The sound was so soft I almost didn't hear it over the voice of the podcast. I whipped around, and there it was, 2 blurring white headlights behind me, coming from a black SUV. I forced my legs to pump faster. The car didn't speed up. It crawled along, slowly, taking its time. like the driver knew he could catch me, no matter what. I glanced back, trying to make him out behind the darkened windshield, but the headlights were too bright to see anything. Kelly wasn't just a registered sex offender. He'd been convicted of assaulting a woman he worked with, who had multiple piercings and short dark hair, just like Sarah. The car crawled down the road, stalking me like a lioness stalks her prey. I veered off onto our dark residential street. You know, usually, if you think you're being followed, you should not go down a dark residential street. You should try to find a place that's really open with a lot of people, with crowds, and get to a well-lit area with stores that have people in it or lights. Just anywhere, just be in public. Don't go to somewhere that's really private and quiet. Just a few more steps. Headlights flashed across me, illuminating my running shadow on the pavement. I didn't look back. I just ran, as fast as I possibly could. The little brown house with the yellow shutters came into view. I sprinted across the grass, grabbing my keys from my pocket. Click. I threw the door open and slammed it shut behind me. Now you led the stalker to your house, and now you're potentially trapped in your own home because they know where you live and they can always break in, so that was not the best idea. Okay. I turned the deadbolt, collapsed against the door, and began crying. I heard the rush of the car passing our house, continuing down the road. But I wasn't safe. Gabe wasn't home yet. I was alone in a dark house with someone driving down the street who knew exactly where I lived. Still sobbing, I checked all the locks. Then I called Gabe, who assured me he was 5 minutes away. I made my way down the dark hallway and headed into the bathroom. Then I set my phone on the counter, grabbed a clump of tissues, and began to blow my nose. Click. I jumped, whipped around, but it wasn't coming from outside the door. My phone screen lit up. The podcast was still playing. I must have hit it when I put the phone down. It had skipped several minutes forward, according to the play indicator. "What do you think happened to Sarah?" the baritone voice asked. I reached for it to turn it off. "Well, she'd told me she wanted to run away before." I stopped dead. It was Gabe's voice, clear as day, coming from the speakers. "She did? Why?" the voice asked. "She wasn't happy with her grades, her job, her parents. She told me sometimes she'd dream of just moving to some random state and leaving it all behind." I froze, staring at the mirror. I never said that. Never. Gabe was lying? I mean, that was hurtful to me as her boyfriend, you know? I thought we were going to get married someday, but apparently she didn't feel the same way. My heart pounded in my ears. "So you think she just skipped town and she happily lived her life out somewhere else, rather than being abducted or murdered?" A pause. "Yes, that's exactly what I think." That's all for now. Thank you to our listeners. The outro played. I stared at my reflection, everything coming down all at once, my mind trying to race and catch up with what it meant. The front door creaked open. Footsteps sounded outside. "Sarah, I'm back!" I backed away from the door. "Sarah?" My eyes flew on the window. I ran over to it, turned the lock. Push. I popped the screen out. Then I swung a leg over, pulled myself through the window, and ran as fast as I could. Okay, so the plot twist is that her boyfriend is working with these human traffickers who are trying to kidnap her and either sell her off or murder her. So, poor Sarah, oh my gosh. She's just some college kid walking home from her late shift at work. She enjoys true crime podcasts, as many of us do. I feel like there's a certain fascination with watching true crime videos. She's just listening to it, enjoying it. It's something to kind of ease her mind, something that's like her hobby, right? And she's listening to it, and there's a news story on. She's listening to it, and it turns out the story hits a little too close to home. And as she's listening to the podcast, she feels that she's being followed by some black SUVs, and it turns out that she might actually she's actually being stalked, you know? The description of the girl that went missing in the true crime podcast matches her. Same shoes, same name, same neighborhood, and she does something which is not too smart. She ends up leading them back to her house where she lives. She essentially trapped herself by giving them her location. She really should have tried to go to a more public, crowded area, or at least somewhere like a convenience store, something that would have a person that could help call for help for you. But yeah, she went home, she locked the doors, and she called her boyfriend to let him know that she feels that she's being stalked. And she goes to the bathroom and is still listening to the true crime podcast, and it turns out that her boyfriend was on the true crime podcast telling lies about her, saying that she had wanted to run away and that she probably just skipped town instead of being kidnapped or abducted. Now, it's really interesting. So I'm curious, is this either supposed to be like a supernatural podcast which can show the future, like right before it happens? Or was this podcast staged by her boyfriend and the abductors, and they kind of created it and released it ahead of time to kind of spook her, like to kind of warn her this is what's going to happen to you? Like, is it supernatural, or was it pre-filmed and put up for her to hear? But either way, real spooky. It's scary because, you know, her boyfriend, someone that she planned to marry, someone that she lived with, is trying to abduct her, either, you know, human trafficking or murder. We don't really know. Wait, did they say that her body was found? They said they found her shoes in the lake, but did they say that they found her body? I completely missed that. No, they didn't find a body. That's why they're speculating, did she run away, or was she kidnapped? Now, Gabe is saying she was not kidnapped, and I'm like, damn, Gabe. Terrible boyfriend. So let's see what other people think. Now go throw your size 9 red Converse in the lake and get out of town. Yeah, you know, throw them off your trail, throw your shoes in, and they'll think that maybe you were in that lake. They'll just search that. Fulfill the prophecy. Dang. Plot twist. Gabe knows she loves crime podcasts, and the whole thing is a really elaborate marriage proposal. That's one possibility. However, I don't know if she would really appreciate him scaring her as a way to propose marriage, because that's a really mean prank, and I feel like she would lose a lot of trust in him after. Just because someone enjoys listening to true crime doesn't mean they want to become a true crime. Dear God, I hope. Yet at the same time, what a horrifying, traumatizing way to propose to someone. I agree, exactly. Haha, gotcha. Were you scared? Want to spend the rest of your life with someone who takes no issue doing that to you? Love you. Exactly. I would never be able to trust Gabe again if he pulled a stunt like that. Yeah. So he was right. You did skip town. Well, Sarah skipped town because she can't trust Gabe and she believes he's working with those people in the SUV. On a side note, I hope they will find out what that creepy dude actually did at the lake at night. Yeah, the thing is that, why would they leave her, if they were just gonna abduct her, why would they leave her shoes behind? Because then, like, if someone was running away, they wouldn't leave their shoes behind, right? That doesn't make sense. So, I'm assuming that they probably drowned her in the lake, you know, because they can't find her body. Yeah, don't forget to throw one of your shoes in the lake. Don't want whoever sent you that warning to be wrong. Gabe might try to find you if not. Oh. Yeah, so is the person who made the podcast, are they trying to help her or harm her? Are they trying to warn her to help her avoid this situation, or are they kind of it's like a threatening message that they're sending? I wonder. And she did end up fulfilling the prophecy in a way, because she did end up skipping town and running away, like the end of the podcast said. But that's only because she was gonna get attacked otherwise. So is she actually doing what the prophecy says? She never told anyone that she never told anyone that she wanted to run away. So why would Gabe say that though? Is it because he has a fragile ego and is embarrassed that she ran away with no explanation, so he's coming up with a reason why she disappeared? Or does he have malicious intentions against her? We'll never know. What do you guys think? Okay, so that was a little spooky, creepy, eerie, especially since I like to watch true crime videos, and they can get they can get scary, you know, especially stalking. Stalking is really, really scary because you're just doing your own business and you never know if out of the corner of your eye if you can see someone following you. And then it makes you scared to trust those closest to you. Are they really your friend or are they your foe? Okay, let's check out the next one. Okay, next. I found an old childhood photo. There's something terribly wrong with it. Oh, I'm already getting jitters from this because, you know how sometimes there's these things where you find old family photos and then you find something like a spiritual presence or something that's not supposed to be in the photo? You see that in horror movies sometimes. Oh, okay, let's read it. I found it while cleaning out the closet. An old photo creased at the corners. It depicts a blue boy. It depicted a little boy sitting on a chair in the middle of a wallpapered kitchen. Blue eyes, blonde hair. I flipped it over and checked the date on the back. November 14th, 1996. So me, when I was 4. Except, the kid didn't look quite like me. The photo was grainy, so it was hard to tell for sure, but the eyes were a little too wide set. The smile was too toothy. So, a friend? But it was definitely my mom's kitchen. Floral wallpaper with pink rosettes, the old oak table, and the kid so closely resembled me. Wouldn't I remember having a friend that looked like he could be my twin brother? And why isn't it with the other family photos? I found it in Mom's closet. She had several photo books, all populated with childhood photos, documenting the most insignificant events, from baking cookies to baseball games. So why wasn't this photo with the rest? Why was it hiding on the top shelf of my mom's closet, tucked under a hat box? I walked out into the family room, grabbed the photo album labeled 1995 to 1998, paged through it until I got to a good clear photo of myself at 4. Then I pulled the photo from my pocket and compared the two. It wasn't a great comparison. My head was tilted to the side and his was straight. I was wearing a hat, he wasn't. Still, the difference was unmistakable. His grin was wider, toothier. His skin was paler. His eyes were wider set. Yet, the differences were subtle. To anyone but me, they'd probably look like the same person. What are you doing? I turned to see my mom standing in the doorway, carrying a large box. I hesitated, wondering if I should bring it up to her. She had enough on her mind, with my stepdad passing away and the big move. I found this photo. Who is that? She set the box down and walked over. That's you, when you were 4 or 5, she smiled. Aw, how sweet, look at you. But it doesn't... I hesitated again, knowing I would sound crazy. It doesn't, look exactly like me, does it? Yeah, you were a goofy-looking kid, she laughed. You got a lot better looking as you aged. No, I mean, that photo doesn't look like I did when I was a kid. Look, see? I held up the photo of me in the Red Sox cap side by side with the photo of the boy in the kitchen. I think they look identical, she said. No, they don't. Maybe it's the hat. Hey, can you help me in the attic? There's a lot of stuff up there. Sure, I'll be there in a second. She smiled at me and turned away. I listened to her bare footsteps recede on the carpet. Then I snapped the photo album shut and put it back. I tucked the photo in my pocket. Then I walked back into my mom's room and opened the closet. There were more. When I took down the hat box to search under it, the top came off, revealing an entire trove of photographs. I picked up a few of them, and my heart dropped. A kid hunched over a birthday cake with 4 candles, smiling. Me. Except, not me. The same toothy grin, the same wide-set blue eyes. A kid standing in the front yard, pointing to a frog. My front yard. Again, not me. And then there was a photo that made my heart stop. A photo of my bed. I still remembered those covers, with the sports cars on them. The pillow with the wheel on it. The car lamp. But there, sitting on the bed, not one little boy, 2. Oh, so a twin? Adam? My mom's voice came from above. I stared at the photo, frozen. Me, sitting next to a little boy that looked almost exactly like me? A twin? A brother? I had no memory of this kid. All my life, I'd believed I was an only child. Adam! The stack of photos was a few inches thick. There was no way I could go through them all. I slipped several in my pocket, replaced the hat box, and then headed down the hall. Coming, Mom! I started up the ladder, and my phone began to ring. The theme of Legend of Zelda played its tune. I stopped 2 stairs up and slipped the phone out of my pocket. Caller ID. Allie, my wife. Yeah? Can you get me a drink too? Sure, I said. What do you want me to pick up on the way back? The usual whiskey? On the way back? Yeah, on the way back from my mom's. I'll be here another hour or 2, but... You're at your mom's? She asked. Her voice suddenly soft, confused. Yeah, why? I don't understand. I just let you inside the house, she said. You're down in the kitchen, making us drinks. Aren't you? Oh no. Is his wife in danger? Oh gosh. Okay, so, our dude, Adam, is just helping his mom clean up the house, and he comes upon a photograph of what he assumes is himself until he looks at it and realizes that the little boy in the picture doesn't look exactly quite like him. Close enough, but not exactly. And so he asks his mom about it, and she's like, oh, don't be silly, that's you. Not everyone always looks the same in photos. But he happened to look at some of his other photos from the same time period, and he compared the two of how he looked at 4 and how the 4-year-old boy in the photo looked, and he's like, no, this is definitely not the same boy. And so he goes to look for more photos in the closet and finds a whole stack of this boy with the toothier grin and the wider set eyes, who looks similar to him, but not exactly. Who is this boy? He found one photo with 2 boys sitting on a bed. Himself, he can recognize, and that boy. So he's wondering, who is this kid? Did I have a twin brother? That I don't remember? What happened to him? But suddenly he gets a phone call from his wife who's at home, and she calls him and says, can you make me a drink? He's like, sure, when I get home. And she's confused. She says, what do you mean when you get home? Aren't you downstairs in the kitchen? Who is this person? Are they a twin brother? Are they a doppelganger? Are they one of those creatures that can mimic humans? You know, I don't know what's the exact term for it, but they can like take on the form and like a copycat. They could take on the form of a human, but not exactly. So it looks a little bit off. But to like the average person, they probably look the same. Who is this person? Are they even are they supernatural, or are they real? Who is this? Why has this person not been in his life? Why have they been living? Have they been trying to live his life? Like going to his work when he doesn't know it, or hanging out with his wife when he doesn't know it? Like, what else has this person been doing under the guise of his identity? He's stealing his identity. What the heck? Also, his mom is definitely in on it. She definitely knows something. Now, why is she hiding this? Why? What's going on? At first, you know what? At first, when I was reading it, I thought maybe he was kidnapped as a child to replace this boy in the photo, because the original maybe passed away, and so he was kidnapped because he looks similar. But that doesn't seem to be the case. He just happens to have a twin or a doppelganger. I hope his wife's okay. I hope, you know, whatever you do, I mean, what is he gonna do next? Is Adam gonna quickly drive home to check on his wife? Is he gonna tell her not to panic? Oh man, I kind of want to know what happens next. Okay, let's see what people have to say. It's dangerous to go alone. Take your brother. I think maybe this is 2 parallel universes colliding. As in, you transferred over to Universe B from Universe A, while your Universe B counterpart transferred over to Universe A. The picture with both of you depicts the overlapping of the 2 universes. Your counterpart is probably as confused as you are. That's an interesting take, and I mean, if that's the case, that's a lot less insidious than what I'm thinking. But then that kind of sucks, because he would want to go back to his own life, right? Good things their cell phones are cross-dimensional. Yeah. Also, I thought it was kind of weird. Why would his wife use her cell phone to call him? if he's supposedly downstairs, wouldn't she just like go downstairs to tell him, or call over, yell out loud from upstairs, like over the railing, like, hey, can you make me another drink? That type of thing. Why would you waste a minute calling them with your cell phone? Come on, OP, don't leave us hanging. I need to know why your mom hides and still hides him from you. And how long your wife's been drinking with and doing you... Yeah, how long has this been going on? Did this guy just infiltrate your house, or has he been hanging out with your wife for a long time? How has he managed to do this without you knowing? Yeah, exactly, like this person says, I thought he got kidnapped to replace a dead kid, but the ending made it unlikely. Yeah, there are two people. I was thinking he was cloned from a dead older brother at first until he saw the picture of both of them. That was also an interesting theory. But yeah, at first I thought he was kidnapped to replace this kid, but it looks like the kid is still alive and well and the mom knows it. Must be your twin, but why you don't have any memory of him? And your mom seems to be hiding something. Also, how did the twin find your house? When I first read this, I was afraid the twin went to the kitchen to get a knife or something to hurt your wife. But if he really wants to do so, he would have already prepared it and got your wife at the door. What is your twin trying to do? Please update us. Oh, this person has maybe like a good theory. I'm assuming a traumatic event blocked out those memories. He mentions having a stepdad. Maybe dad ran off with the twin. That could be possible. It could be like a traumatic experience where he has amnesia and can't remember the twin. And maybe that's when the mom doesn't talk about the kid. But still, why would the twin still be pretending to be him, though? That doesn't make any sense. Trying to live his life and steal his wife? Well, that rhymed. Okay, but guys, what do you think of this story? This is so creepy. Imagine if you found out you had like a twin or a doppelganger that was trying to steal your life, and your mom knew about this but didn't tell you, and she's trying to gaslight you into thinking that, oh, that is you in the picture. You silly goose. You don't know how you look like. I know how you look like better. That's definitely you in the photo. Okay, now I have one more story. Let's check out this last one. This one, ooh, okay. It says, my brother used to come into my room to cover my ears at night. Oh my gosh, okay, what could this be about? Let's see. When you're holding somebody's ears shut, you can't cover up your own. I didn't realize that for a long time. I'm writing this to get it out of my system, off my chest, so to speak. It's a Hail Mary effort for sure, but maybe I'll get some good advice out of this. My big brother Braun used to come into my room late at night when I was little. The visits seemed random, but would happen at least once every 3 months. I was, and still am, a very light sleeper, so I would wake up instantly whenever he opened the door. He would place his finger over his lips before sitting down on the bed with me. Then, he'd pull me close and place his hands over both my ears. We would sit like this for around an hour each time before he would eventually let go of me and go back to his own room. You know, if you didn't want this to happen, you could lock your bedroom door, or maybe, why would he leave though? Why wouldn't he just stay with you in the room then? Like, you know, sleep in the same bed so that he doesn't have to make the trip, you know? Right now it seems like his brother, his or her, I'm not sure, their brother is sleepwalking. That's what it seems to be right now. I tried to ask him why he kept doing this, but he never told me directly. The older I got, however, the more everything appeared to fall into place. There was only one rational explanation, and that had to have been related to our parents. Probably because he doesn't want them to hear the parents arguing downstairs. Okay. Mom and Dad were a seemingly happy couple. They never fought, argued, or even swore in front of my older brother and me. But maybe that's what they were doing at night, and that's what Braun didn't want me to hear. So, I started looking for signs, I suppose. Tension between my parents when us kids weren't in the same room with them, well-hidden bruises, broken objects around the house, any kinds of marks a physical altercation could have left. I was spying on them every free minute of my day, but I found nothing. All was perfectly fine and normal. Obviously, I was glad Mom and Dad actually did get along as well as they made it seem, but with that possibility ruled out, the mystery of Braun's visits remained unexplained. So if it isn't because he doesn't want them to hear their parents fighting, then is he just sleepwalking? I could have just asked Braun what he was doing, But that's not really how a kid's mind works, or at least it wasn't how my mind worked. The way I saw it, I had to make an effort to figure this out on my own, like all those clever young detective nerds on TV. I really did feel a little like an investigator or a secret agent of sorts. That's childhood innocence for you. For a long time, my search for answers yielded no results. I never quite gave up on it, though. Over the years, yes, this went on for years, I got better at sneaking around the house unnoticed. I learned how to walk without making any sound whatsoever. I would creep up to Braun's bedroom late at night sometimes and peek in through the keyhole. From what little I could tell by watching him, he never got up to do anything suspicious either. So if it wasn't Mom and Dad fighting, and if Braun wasn't being crazy, what was going on? By the way, Braun and I are roughly 3 years apart. I don't know when I started investigating, but I do know how old I was when I finally found out. 11. I was 11 years old, and Braun was 14. During that time, I had taken a new approach to the whole matter. I was aware Braun would visit me every other month, which meant that on these special nights, something happened in our house, or at least an earshot of it. Braun obviously knew and had kept it from me, very successfully thus far. However, if I were to get a head start on him, I might have a chance of finding out. All I'd have to do was hide somewhere around the house, somewhere outside my room where Braun wouldn't find me. Of course, I didn't know where this weird mystery thing would be transpiring, so I had to pick hiding spots at random and just hope I'd be lucky enough to get a good view. If not, I knew I'd at least hear it. The downside of this plan was that since Braun's visits didn't come at a set schedule, I'd have to hide every single night and just wait for something to happen. Man, you're gonna mess up your sleep schedule so bad. Worse yet, I needed to be extremely cautious. If I got caught once, my entire mission might end up being compromised. If Braun knew I was onto him, he'd probably lock me up in my room from then on, or something. Either way, there were 2 hiding spots I deemed suitable. You could have just locked your door so he couldn't get into your room. I decided to switch between them every night to maximize my chances of witnessing the event. One was the cupboard underneath the kitchen sink. Ooh, that's a terrible place to hide. I've always been flexible, so even as a lanky 11-year-old, I could fit myself in there without any difficulties. Then, I would simply keep the door open a crack and peer outside. From there, I had an excellent view of the kitchen and half of the dining room. The other spot was on top of the tall closet in the upstairs hallway. This lovely piece of old furniture was placed facing the staircase that led up to our bedrooms from the living room downstairs. It was where we stored all of our blankets, bed sheets, and towels, so any one of us could simply walk out from their room or the bathroom to take what they wanted. Very accessible. The good thing was that there would always be blankets lying on top of the closet too, so if I hid underneath those, I'd have a good view of almost the entire living room as well as the front door. On top of that, with a bit of quiet maneuvering, I'd be able to tell what was going on in the hallway as well. The only thing I could not see at all was the kitchen and the dining room. So you got your 2 places covered. I switched between those 2 spots every night. I'd be extremely sneaky about it. I would wait for Braun to come by and say goodnight like he always did, and wait until he'd return to the living room. He'd usually stay up much longer than me and watch TV downstairs with my parents. Once I was sure nobody was paying attention, I'd either crawl down the stairs and into the kitchen cabinet on all 4s, or go out into the hallway where I would use the smaller chest of drawers beside the big closet as a sort of stepladder to then hide under the blankets on top of it. In the meantime, I had also acquired the key to my room and would lock it from the outside as soon as I would leave from my hiding place. With that, I risked not being able to make a fast and silent return to my bed when I need. I risked not being able to make a fast and silent return to my bed when in need, but it would also buy me time when Braun would inevitably come to cover my ears one of those nights. Surely, he'd think I'd locked myself in because I wanted privacy, and his first course of action would be to find a way into my room instead of assuming I was elsewhere in the house and going around to look for me. So you see, I was very calculative with the way I went about my plan. I don't know. I think you should just ask him straight up. And then the night came, and it finally happened. I was hiding on top of the closet. I'm not sure if I should be lucky I did. On the one hand, if I'd been hiding in the kitchen, I would have seen little of what went down. But on the other hand, I really wish I hadn't seen half of what went down. It started with me waiting for what felt like hours. Maybe it really was hours, who knows? I could hear the TV drumming away downstairs, but nobody was talking. Kind of odd. Suddenly, I heard the front door being unlocked. In came my mother wearing high heels, a short red dress, and eye-catching hoop earrings. I had never seen her dressed up like that, and I hadn't even known she was going out that night. Uh-oh. She was laughing loudly, her bright red lipstick shining as she switched on the light in the hallway. She wasn't alone. A man followed her inside. He was about the same age as her, dressed in a nice gray suit. I had never seen him before, but he was holding her hand. She pulled him into the hallway after her. He was laughing as well, and I could tell he was drunk. Is she cheating on Dad? Mother, how could you? Mom shut the door behind them, smiling widely at the stranger. The TV was switched off. Dad and Braun emerged from the back of the living room, making their way into the hallway. The stranger, who was just taking off his coat, halted. Turning to my mother, he slurred, "Hey, I thought you'd be alone." What's going on? Both the father and son are in on it. What are they gonna do? She gave him a sweet grin and shrugged before turning and pressing herself up against the door, locking it behind her back. What? That's all the man could say before Dad wrapped his arm around him from behind and pressed his hand over his mouth. He was holding something white, like a handkerchief maybe. He stuffed it into the guy's mouth. The stranger tried to reach up and remove Dad's arm, but my father didn't let go. I stared at them in shock, unable to move. This wasn't really happening, was it? They're abducting a guy. Just stay still now, buddy, Dad said in a calm voice. The stranger whimpered through the gag and slowly lowered his arms. Braun, go take care of your sister. Okay, so OP is a girl. OP is the younger sister. And they are probably going to torture and murder this dude who followed the mother home. And Braun is in charge of making sure that the little sister does not find out that they are butchering someone downstairs, probably. Oh my gosh. My older brother, who had been watching the scene with mild interest, nodded and proceeded to climb the staircase. I lowered my head, allowing the blanket I had been peeking out from to swallow me whole. Braun's footsteps moved up the stairs and towards my bedroom door. I heard him press down on the handle to find that the door remained in place. My brother gave a low hum as he tried it again, and then again and again. The handle creaked quietly in protest. I shifted on top of the closet and peered out to the side. As expected, Braun was standing outside my room, a look of alarmed confusion on his face. He raised his hand and ever so gently knocked on my door. "April?" he uttered. "April, are you asleep?" No response came from the empty room. "April," he repeated in a low voice. "Can I come in, please?" Still nothing, of course. I stayed as silent as I could, hidden safely beneath the sheets. Meanwhile, the stranger was weeping quietly downstairs, his voice muffled by the gag Dad had stuffed into his mouth. My parents were staying still, like they were listening in on what was happening upstairs. After some thinking, Braun raised his fist and banged it against the door with such force the whole floor seemed to shake. I winced. My older brother then leaned against the door, pressing his ear to it. After a few seconds, he shook his head and went back downstairs. "She locked herself in. She seems to be asleep in there, though." "Well, it was to be expected," Mom muttered. "Girls want their privacy. We couldn't have made you keep barging in there anyways. We're gonna have to talk to her soon." "Talk to her and have her join in?" I turned in my spot to look down into the living room again. What did she mean they were going to talk to me? Were they planning on letting me in on whatever sick scheme this was? Braun seemed to know all right. I still didn't want to believe my eyes. Maybe, I thought, maybe this was all just a setup. They'd seen me sneak around and this was my punishment. Maybe this guy was just an actor. Part of me was tempted to simply come out of my hiding spot and tell them I'd learned my lesson, but I wasn't actually naive enough to think that was the truth. I knew very well what was happening. Deep down I knew. I just didn't have the strength to accept it. My disbelief was protecting me from the cruelty I was in the process of witnessing. "What do we do with this one?" Braun asked, pointing at the gagged man restrained by my father's arms. "What we normally do," Dad replied, "just quieter." With that, he grabbed the stranger by the neck and slammed his head down against the banister. It collided with a loud thump. I pressed my hand over my mouth. The man's head left a red stain on the wood, and his body fell limp, folding over the staircase. Dad picked him up and proceeded to drag him off into the part of the living room I couldn't see. Mom smiled at Braun and patted his shoulder. "Sweetie, can you wipe that off for me? Come join us when you're done." My brother nodded, and while Mom walked after Dad, he went into the kitchen. He returned with a wet cleaning rag and started to work on the stain. Afterwards, he made his way back to our parents. I had no idea where they had gone exactly, but I figured it was the basement. They had probably exited through the back door. Once everything was silent, I slid off the closet and went back into my room. I laid down in bed and stayed there until morning, despite being wide awake. I didn't run for the police or a neighbor. I didn't tell anyone a thing. In fact, I didn't talk at all. I would not open my mouth to utter a single word for 4 entire weeks after that night. To be fair, OP is 11 years old. They're still a young child and can't process what exactly happened. To find out that their entire family kidnaps and lures people to the house and murders them. And because she's so young, she can't run away or take care of herself. She's not an adult that can just leave. She still relies heavily on her parents and her family, and she doesn't want to get them mad because she doesn't know what they're capable of if they would hurt her. At school, I didn't participate. I didn't talk to my friends or my brother or my parents. It was obvious to my family that something was wrong, and they'd try to get me to tell them, but I stayed quiet. I don't know why exactly I didn't speak. Sometimes I actually wanted to, but when I'd open my mouth, my mind would suddenly empty, and it felt like I had completely forgotten every word that had ever existed. That entire time, I knew I had to tell somebody, but I didn't know how. I was scared that the cops wouldn't take me seriously. I figured maybe I could turn to a teacher first, but I was afraid they wouldn't believe me and tell my parents. 4 weeks later, the police were at our door. I hadn't been the one to inform them, and I felt terrible about it, but I couldn't have been happier. I saw them from my window as their cars pulled up outside our house. I started to cry then. I knew I should have said something sooner, and at the time, the guilt was killing me. With every day that I had kept my mouth shut, I had been scared they would bring home another one, that someone else was going to die, and that it'd be my fault for not doing anything. They didn't get anyone else before they were caught, though. It was over, and I was so damn happy. I'm not sure how exactly the police or whoever it was at the time found out my parents were the ones responsible for 23 disappearances, and not just around town either. 23 people, wow! They had lured in both men and women, killed them and stripped them of their cash and belongings. Those were just the ones they had definitive proof of, but I genuinely hoped that was all. Braun and I grew up apart from our mother and father. After what I'd seen, I didn't mind too much. Ever since that night, I had been scared to death of them. Quite literally, seeing as I'd been walking on eggshells in fear of what they'd do to me if they found me out, or if I upset them. Braun was never punished for helping them or anything. I'm not even sure if they knew he did so at all. We both got counseling and stuff, though. It was a really difficult time for me, for both of us. So I'm sorry for not wanting to talk about it any more than this. I hope you understand. Either way, I already mentioned I'm writing this because of something that happened recently. It took a long time for Braun and me to reestablish somewhat of a trusting relationship. I realized that he had been greatly impacted by the things he had seen. I don't know when Mom and Dad started using him to assist them, but I was certain he had been like me, a scared child who hadn't known what else to do. Maybe it had started with them simply telling him to cover my ears, and he had investigated them himself, only to find out about the killings, and then Mom and Dad had sucked him in. I had been so afraid of him too, for a long time actually, but that's how we slowly started talking again. Nowadays, we're very close, or at least we were, until yesterday. Braun and I had met up for lunch. We got ourselves takeout and ate at his place, since that gave us the chance to catch up in private, and that's when he made a suggestion. "You're really pretty these days," he began, giving me a once-over. "You look a lot like Mom, maybe even better than her, actually." Where are you going with this?" I asked, uncertain and a little uncomfortable with being compared to my mother. "You ever think about how Mom and Dad got caught?" "Honestly, I don't want to think about them at all." "Of course, but I was wondering, you know how they did it, right? She lured them in and Dad would do this whole ambush thing." He paused, tilting his head. You don't make as much as you do. Wait. You don't make as much as you should. Neither do I. Work sucks. But there's people who really have more money on them every day than we make in a month. And most of the time, those are huge a-holes. He said this so casually it sounded like he was telling me about the weather forecast. I didn't say anything. I simply got up and walked out the door, not stopping to put on my coat. I simply took it outside with me. That was yesterday, and we haven't spoken since. I don't know what to do. Ever since then, I've been asking myself if he'd played a bigger role in all of this. The thought itself seems outlandish, but the more I wonder, the more I feel like there might be something to it. If anyone who reads this has any idea on what course of action to take here, please share it with me. I'm at a loss, and I'm scared. There's this one thing I kept thinking about in particular. I mentioned it at the start of this post, too. Braun would only ever hold my ears shut, meaning he himself would hear everything. I never noticed him showing any kind of distress at it, though. Oh, man. Okay, so, I'm sorry, April, but your older brother, Braun, is definitely in on it more than you think, and he probably enjoys it just as much as your parents. He even watched an interest as the father had ambushed and like knocked out the guy that your mom brought home. And then after seeing him insinuate that both of you should team up to restart what your mom and dad did by kidnapping, killing, and stealing money from people, I'm pretty sure that he has always been interested in this type of thing and has not been as manipulated as you thought he was. I'm glad that the authorities managed to find your parents and arrest them, and that you guys were taken out of that situation, but I don't think it's safe for you to be anywhere near your brother because he is the same type of person as your parents. He's cut from the same cloth, and he doesn't seem to be bothered by any of it, really. He actually seems really interested in continuing their legacy. So my advice to you, April, is to... Well, so the thing is that because he was a kid when it happened, he was 14, they couldn't charge him with anything. Now, we don't know if he's been doing anything since, but him insinuating it doesn't mean he's done anything, and so you can't get him arrested for that. But I would definitely stay away from him. And the scary thing is that since he's your brother, even if you stay away, he like has your contact unless you want to cut all ties and change your number. But then what if he comes to find you later? Like, that's scary too, right? I don't know, man. What do you guys think? What would you do if you found out that your parents and your older sibling were in the business of kidnapping, luring people into your home and then killing them and stealing their money? And even after your parents are arrested and put in jail, that your sibling is still interested in continuing their legacy. Would you, obviously you are not into that, and so what would you do? Would you still keep in contact with them? Would you completely cut them off? Would you get a restraining order, which probably wouldn't work with him anyway, but you know, that actually might make him more mad if you try to get a restraining order against him. Let's see what people have to say. You have to report him, April. Who knows who he could hurt? Someone else. Don't give him that chance. Yeah, but the thing is that, can you report him without any solid evidence? Like, if he hasn't shown any, like, actual evidence of kidnapping or stalking or anything like that, I don't know if you can report him for a crime. You'd have to catch him in the act, but then you don't want to put anyone in danger. But for him to be thinking about that, has he been doing it by himself? And he's just thinking about whether or not he wants to include you in on it? I mean, by you storming out, he already knows that you are not interested, and so now I don't know if he views you as an enemy or someone who could be, you know, someone who could be, like, a snitch or something, you know? Like, you have to think about yourself as well. You could be in danger. I don't know. I know you're right, but is it normal that I'm really freaked out of doing it? Plus, he technically hasn't done anything yet. I'm just sort of afraid of what might follow. I'll do it though, definitely. Oh? So, April replied and saying that they will report him. I want to just check really quickly. This is not a real story, is it? Okay. I was just making sure just in case. Because, you know, sometimes people will write as if, like, they are OP, like, you know, like they're really immersed in the story. Yes, so April definitely wants to report him, but has to find more concrete evidence. Let's see. Of course it is. He's your brother and he's implied he wants to recruit you to commit murder. As for having not done anything, you know he was an accessory to murder, and the conversation he had with you is considered a conspiracy to commit. It's a felony. He definitely has done something. Thanks. Now at least I know there's some safe legal ground to make that report. I know this sounds like I'm super naive, but I kind of feel like I might have been overreacting in a way. I don't know. This whole thing is so surreal to me. April, I mean, you gotta do what's best for you. I mean, you can take people's advice, but at the same time, you can't put yourself in danger at either. I'm so sorry, honey. It's not an overreaction, but it has to really hurt. You said yourself that he had been watching the scene with mild interest. Make sure you are in a safe place, first of all. Alert your roommates to help protect you if you have any. I'd privately talk to an attorney, too. The first meeting should be free, but you'll get some free advice if you talk to a couple of them. Conspiracy to commit a crime is an indictable offense. At the very least, he should be watched. Well, actually, it is just solicitation to commit murder. Conspiracy comes once April agrees. Either way, April be sure to report him. Well, yeah, I guess the best thing would be for her to get legal advice, to hire an attorney to kind of look into it, maybe hire a private investigator to find some dirt on him. If he has actually committed anything, then you can build a case against him. But yeah, you know, think it through. You don't have to, like, before you jump the gun, you really have to weigh your options, get some advice from, like, legal experts about how you can go about charging him, or because if it's like something really low level and then he ends up getting let out really soon, then he might come after you, and so that's really dangerous as well. So be careful, April. The problem is, if she reports him to the police, all he's done is talk about how some people make too much money, and they're usually a-holes, and they don't make enough. The cops, unfortunately, will probably tell her that they can't do anything since no crime has yet been committed, as far as they know regarding Braun, unless she tells them she thinks he has a role in the killings. Yeah, so she's not sure herself. April isn't sure if he has committed any killings. He's an accessory to murder back then, but has he been committing any crimes currently? She's not sure. So again, hire a private investigator if you have the funds, hire an attorney, and weigh your legal options. Let people who know more about this type of situation handle it, and you just take care of yourself, okay? But yeah, anyway, yeah, I'm also wondering, how did they get caught? Because April wasn't the one that reported them. I guess they ended up, April says, I'm guessing people were reporting missing and the authorities did their job. I had nothing to do with it. Yeah, so April herself says that she didn't report them. I guess they got sloppy. They did it every 3 months or every other month. 23 people is quite a lot. And they were also bringing them back to their own home. So there had to have been evidence in their house. Or evidence leading to their house. They committed their murders in their own house, which is really risky, you know? But yeah, so what do you guys think? What would you guys do in this situation if you were poor April and your sibling came up to you and tried to solicit you to commit murder with him? Would you just move? Would you just cut ties and move? Or would you try to get him convicted and put in jail for a long time and then run away and change your name and identity so that he can't find you when he gets out, if he gets out? Wow. So we had guys, we had 3 different stories. We had one about a true crime podcast. We had one about finding out that you may have a doppelganger based on a photograph, and we found out about a poor girl who has a murderous family, who's got away with it for quite a while. And now now her older brother is trying to get her in on the family business. So 3 different types of stories, all equally creepy and depressing. They're all really depressing, like really somber and macabre, you know? Like everyone's in a really terrible situation. As is usual, I guess, with these no sleep stories. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the stories that I picked out. Let me know what you would do in these situations. And other than that, I will see you guys next time. Bye-bye!